In the third year of my long-distance marriage with Victoria, on our anniversary, I boarded a flight to Germany. During its descent, the plane suffered a bird strike and began to fail. The flight attendants, their voices choked with despair, instructed passengers to prepare final messages for their families. I frantically called Victoria over and over, but the line just kept ringing unanswered. Just moments before the plane crashed and exploded, I saw a new social media post from her secretary, a picture of Victoria, sound asleep. The caption was sickeningly sweet. "She took care of me all night and is only just now getting to sleep. I feel safest when you're by my side." After narrowly escaping death, I chose to let them be. But then Victoria panicked. Chapter 1. The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. Victoria's phone returned nothing but an endless busy signal. I clutched my phone in despair, pulling the oxygen mask down from the panel above my seat. A massive impact sent a wave of screams and cries through the cabin. I shut my eyes, gripping my seatbelt, ready for death. My dozen or so messages on WhatsApp had gone unanswered. My last exchange with Victoria was simply, "I love you, my darling." Today was supposed to be our third wedding anniversary. Just last week, she'd told me on the phone that she was too swamped with work to fly back and celebrate with me. To surprise her, I had secretly bought a ticket to Germany. But just moments ago, right before landing, the flight attendant's voice came over the intercom, trembling with tears. The plane had sustained severe damage from a bird strike. We were told to brace for impact and leave final messages for our families. No one grasped the gravity of the situation until the fuselage began to shake violently, and piercing alarms blared to life. Chaos erupted. I tried to stay calm and called Victoria. It rang twice before someone picked up. "Honey, listen, I'm in a situation. I was cut off before I could finish." The voice wasn't Victoria's. It was her personal secretary, Ethan Hayes. "Mr. Donovan, Miss Sterling is in a meeting, but He hung up. I immediately redialed, only to be met with that relentless busy signal. All around me, passengers were weeping as they spoke to their loved ones. I was weeping too, but I didn't even have the chance to say goodbye. I opened WhatsApp. Our last conversation was a week ago. She had said, "Busy, not coming back for the anniversary." Amidst the violent turbulence, my hands trembled as I tried to type her a message. The plane lurched violently as one of the wings caught fire. The screams of passengers, the booming explosions, the shrieking alarms. It was a symphony of terror that left me paralyzed with fear. I curled into my seat. In the next instant, a wall of fire rushed toward me. A massive explosion roared, and my hearing vanished. A wave of searing heat threw me from my seat. I tumbled through the air before slamming hard onto the ground. It felt as if my organs had been shattered. The pain was excruciating. Tears streamed down my face. My hand accidentally brushed my phone, and the screen lit up with Ethan's new social media post. The photo was of a woman sleeping soundly. It was Victoria. Maybe it was the physical agony, or maybe it was the realization that I was dying like a fool, clutching my phone, waiting for a response that would never come. A bitter smile formed on my lips. I tried to drag myself toward safety, but my legs were useless. Everywhere I looked, there was blood and dismembered limbs. I couldn't tell if parts of my own body had been blown off. I tried to scream for help, but couldn't hear my own voice. My body was drained of all strength. Memories of my years with Victoria flooded my mind, finally freezing on the image of Ethan's post. As I lay on the brink of death, Victoria was tangled up in bed with Ethan. On our wedding anniversary, on the day that was about to become the anniversary of my death, the pain from my body and my heart soon pulled me into unconsciousness. When I woke up, the hospital room was filled with doctors and strangers. Chapter 2. The blinding sunlight stung my eyes. Countless cameras were pointed at me. A doctor informed me that I was one of only 2 survivors of the plane crash. It was the 3rd day after the accident. The pain in my left arm was so intense it took my breath away. The doctor explained that my left arm had been severely lacerated by fuselage fragments and I might suffer permanent nerve damage. making it difficult to ever exert full strength again. Aside from a concussion and soft tissue contusions all over my body, there were no other serious injuries. I was the luckiest survivor of the disaster. You were here in Germany on vacation, right? Here's your phone. You should contact your family and let them know you're safe. The doctor handed me my phone. The screen was shattered, but it still worked. I had over a dozen missed calls, all from my mother. From Victoria, there was only a single message sent 3 days ago. Happy 3rd anniversary. I'm really busy, so we'll have to skip celebrating. I let out a soft, mocking laugh. Happy? What on earth made her think I would be happy? The relief and terror of surviving washed over me again, and tears began to flow uncontrollably. After composing myself, I dialed my mother's number. Sincere, honey, I saw the news about the plane crash in Germany. Are you okay? Hearing my mother's worried voice, I felt a wave of genuine love. The person in this world who would always love me, always wait for me, would never be Victoria. Mom, don't worry, I'm okay. I'll be back in a few days. I miss you so much. During my stay in the hospital, I refused all interview requests from the media. The day I was discharged, I took a taxi straight to Victoria's apartment in Germany. I didn't bother calling her. She wouldn't answer, and even if she did, she'd just say she was busy. Lying in that hospital bed, undergoing test after test, I had days to think. What was the point of a marriage like this? To Victoria, I had become completely disposable. While I was staring death in the face, she was in another man's bed, oblivious and indifferent. She didn't care about my life. In the 6 months she'd been away on business, we had barely spoken. I arrived at her temporary apartment, the very one I had helped her choose. I entered the code and stepped inside, immediately hearing the sound of a man and a woman laughing. In the kitchen, Victoria and Ethan were tasting something from a pot, their bodies intimately close. At the sound of the door, Ethan, wearing an apron, emerged from the kitchen. They both froze when they saw me. It was 3:30 on a weekday afternoon, and Victoria was not at her office. Ethan clutched a spatula, his expression panicked. Mr. Donovan, why didn't you tell us you were coming to Germany? Chapter 3. Us? I wasn't aware a secretary could now speak for his boss as us, and I, her legal husband, was now the outsider. I set down my bag and, trying to walk normally, sat on the sofa. Ethan, how much does Victoria pay you? Playing secretary and nanny must be exhausting, right? My words were for Ethan, but my eyes were locked on Victoria. Ethan stammered, his face flushing red as he shot a helpless look at Victoria. Victoria forced a light laugh. Sincere, why didn't you tell me you were coming? You must be tired from the flight. Let me go get a room ready for you. Her sudden attentiveness was laughable. I'm not tired. I've been in Germany for a week. You still haven't answered my question. Why is Ethan here? Victoria's voice grew colder. Ethan's lease was up, and his landlord wouldn't renew. He hasn't found a new place yet, so I let him stay here. Oh? Well, aren't you a considerate boss? Miss Sterling, she used work as an excuse to ignore me every day, while her husband nearly died in a foreign country. All the while, she was here playing house with her male secretary. It's hard to find a place here. It's also more convenient for work. Don't overthink it. I glanced around the apartment, which was filled with signs of them living together, matching mugs, his and her slippers, and even the fact that Ethan was wearing nothing but an apron over his bare chest. I'm not overthinking anything. I just didn't realize that when you said you were busy, this is what you were busy with. My pointed look at Ethan's attire left Victoria speechless. I watched her desperately defend her lover, completely oblivious to the bandage wrapped around my left arm. Even if she didn't care about me, I was standing right in front of her. The news about the plane crash was everywhere. Did it not once cross her mind that I might have been on that flight? If my arrival has disturbed you two, then I apologize. I'll be leaving now. As I grabbed my bag to leave, Victoria blocked my path, her voice tight with suppressed anger. Sincere, can you stop making a scene? It's not what you think between Ethan and me, and what is it that I think? Are you so sure you know what's on my mind? A man and a woman living together. Are you afraid I might get the wrong idea? Victoria finally snapped. That's enough. Ethan is just my subordinate. Don't be so nasty beside us. Ethan lowered his head, his voice trembling as if he were on the verge of tears. Mr. Donovan, please don't let me be the cause of any trouble between you. I'm just crashing here. Please don't misunderstand. I'll move out right now. It's no problem. With that, he rushed into a room to pack his things. Victoria and I were left in a standoff. Sincere Donovan, Ethan is just a kid who recently graduated, all alone in Germany. Have you no consideration for his safety by doing this? His safety? I cheated death to stand before you, and you never once considered my safety. Why on earth should I care about his? Ethan quickly packed his bag and emerged from the room, biting his lip as if he had been gravely wronged. Victoria frowned and moved toward him. Victoria, when that plane exploded in Germany, did you ever once consider my safety? I hadn't wanted to tell her, but in that moment, I hoped she would stop and show me some concern instead of chasing after Ethan. But I was wrong. I had overestimated my own importance yet again. Victoria paused for only half a second, then let out a cold laugh as if I'd told the world's funniest joke. There's a limit to this jealousy, you know. You're standing here perfectly fine, aren't you? I'm going to help him find a hotel. We'll talk when I get back. Chapter 4. Watching Victoria's retreating back as she hurried after him, I lost all will to be angry. Having survived a life and death disaster, I felt a terrifying calm. What was a laughable romance in the face of mortality? The moment I opened my eyes in the hospital and realized I was still breathing, I understood that I had wasted the last 30 years of my life. Before seeing Victoria, I had clung to a sliver of hope that she still loved me. Now I felt that fate had given me a second chance. My world should revolve around me. I immediately booked a ticket on the earliest ferry back home and contacted Miss Jennings, our family lawyer, to inquire about divorce proceedings. I sent Victoria one last message, "Let's get a divorce," then snapped my SIM card in half and tossed the shattered phone. Thrown into the sea along with it was my broken, fragmented marriage to Victoria. After a full day and night of travel, I was finally home. I say home, but it was really just a house where I lived alone. The sprawling space held few traces of Victoria. Exhausted, I dropped my luggage and drew a hot bath, washing away the grime and misery. Around 4 or 5 in the morning, I heard a sound at the front door, but I was too tired to open my eyes. When I woke up again, it was past 9. I walked out of my room and was surprised to see Victoria on the sofa. She looked like she had rushed back from Germany overnight. There were dark circles under her eyes. "Sincere, you're awake." Victoria immediately got up from the sofa to greet me. "Why weren't you answering your phone?" Wearing my bathrobe, I went straight to the kitchen and poured a glass of warm water. The long sleep had left my mouth dry. After downing half the glass, I finally spoke. My phone was destroyed in the plane explosion. Only then did Victoria seem to notice the gruesome wound on my left arm. "Are you telling the truth?" She frowned, staring at me. Her question was so absurd I almost laughed. "What? You think I made it all up just to compete with Ethan for your attention?" No wonder she had been so determined to chase after him last night. She clearly didn't believe a word I'd said. Victoria's expression grew uneasy. "I told you, there's nothing going on between Ethan and me. It's all a misunderstanding." She opened her arms to hug me, but I stepped away in disgust. She still smelled of Ethan's cologne, a scent so nauseating it made me sick. I sneered inwardly. My wife, upon learning I had survived a major explosion, wasn't concerned about my injuries or my well-being. Instead, she was scrambling to explain her relationship with another man. I put down the glass, my tone cold. "It doesn't matter. You're back, which means you got my message. Whatever your relationship with him is, I want a divorce. Sincere, I understand you've been through a lot these past few days, but please, don't take it too far. Do you have any idea how worried I was last night when I got back to the apartment and you were gone? I called you, and you wouldn't answer, worried about me. Where was she when I was dying in that explosion? So Victoria could worry about me after all. She even flew back from Germany overnight to see me. For the past 6 months, she hadn't even come back for the holidays. It was obvious she just didn't want to see me. Victoria sighed and carefully brought a bowl of porridge from the kitchen. In the past, she didn't even know how to wash rice. It seemed she and Ethan had a lot of fun in the kitchen during her time abroad. Eat something. I have things to do at the office. I hope you'll have sorted out your emotions by the time I get back. Whatever happened between us, you shouldn't take it out on Ethan. He's just my colleague. We've been together for so many years. I hope you can be more mature about this. I used to be the immature one, defying my family to marry a penniless Victoria. Now I had finally matured. I was willing to wake up from the dream I had built for myself and understand that all these years had been a mistake. After Victoria left, I went to meet Miss Jennings. Chapter 5. When I saw Miss Jennings at the steakhouse, I felt a bit awkward. After all, she was the same lawyer I had hired years ago to threaten my family with disownment when I was hell-bent on marrying Victoria and no one else. She handed me a file with the divorce-related documents. The other procedures are straightforward, but the investment in her company must be withdrawn. Otherwise, it will be difficult to separate your finances. Her eyes held a mix of concern and doubt, as if she didn't quite believe I was serious about the divorce. It made sense. 5 years ago, as an intern at my family's conglomerate, I had the chance to attend a major business conference. It was there that I met Victoria, who was struggling to get her startup off the ground. Back then, her eyes burned with a passion for her dream. I was instantly smitten by this spirited woman and began to pursue her relentlessly. I stood up the heiress I was supposed to have an arranged meeting with and went to Victoria's tiny rental apartment to cook for her instead. When my father found out, I swore I would marry Victoria or no one. The news sent him to the hospital with a heart attack. From his hospital bed, he gave me an ultimatum. If I insisted on marrying a poor woman like Victoria, I would be cut off from the Donovan family. I immediately contacted Miss Jennings to draft the documents to sever ties. Back then, my world revolved around Victoria. No amount of wealth or privilege could compare to standing by her side through thick and thin. My mother cried as she watched me pack my bags and leave home. I didn't even give her a final hug. I got my wish and married Victoria. I helped her build her company, using my connections to navigate the business world. Victoria couldn't hold her liquor, so I took the drinks for her at countless dinners. We ended up in the emergency room together more times than I can count. On the first snow of the year, 3 years ago, we were stumbling back to our apartment when I shakily pulled a pair of rings from my pocket. "Victoria, marry me." The sudden proposal stunned her. She stared at my nose, red from the cold, for 3 seconds before nodding and accepting the ring. Looking back, Victoria was never the proactive one in our relationship. Even our marriage was something I had to beg for. But I was too foolish back then, my love a desperate, fawning thing. Later, her company Sterling Tech began to gain traction and establish a foothold in the market. She invited many partners and friends to our wedding. 3 days after the ceremony, her company received an anonymous investment of $30 million. She was ecstatic, grabbing me and kissing me wildly. She marveled that a major investor finally understood her vision, but I recognized the last few digits of the bank account on the transfer record. It was painfully familiar. I had seen Miss Jennings in a corner at the wedding reception that day. "Sincere, if you've thought this through, sign here." Miss Jennings' voice pulled me back to the present. She took 2 copies of the divorce agreement from her bag. I nodded and dialed my mother's number. "Mom, I've made up my mind. I'm getting a divorce. Please ask Dad to withdraw that investment. I'm so sorry for everything all these years." "Sincere," my mother's voice choked up on the other end of the line. "Your father's words were harsh, but he's always loved you. No matter what you've been through, this will always be your home." Then my father's voice boomed through the phone. "Nonsense, that brat of mine marries when he wants, and now he wants a divorce when he wants? What am I, a decoration? He needs to come back and tell me this to my face." I wiped away a tear, a bitter smile on my face. Hearing his voice as strong and blustery as ever, I was relieved. He was still the same stubborn old man with a soft heart. When I got home that evening, Victoria was busy in the kitchen. The dining table was set for a candlelight dinner, a rare sight. This was her usual tactic. Whenever she made me angry, a single meal was all it took to win me back. It never occurred to her that it was only because I loved her that I forgave her so easily. "Sincere, you're back. We haven't eaten together in so long. And this isn't takeout. I made it all myself." Victoria's voice was incredibly gentle. I sat down and glanced at the dishes without a flicker of emotion. Pushing aside the cutlery, I took out a pen and paper and said solemnly, "Here are 2 copies of the divorce agreement." I signed my name with a flourish in front of her and pushed the papers across the table. "Your turn." Chapter 6. At my words, her hand, which was pouring red wine, trembled. The crimson liquid spilled onto the pristine white tablecloth. Her shocked gaze fell on my signature, then darted away 5 seconds later. She acted as if she hadn't seen the agreement I had placed right in front of her. "You must be hungry. Come, see what delicious food I've made." Victoria placed a plate of pan-seared prawns in front of me as if it were a precious treasure. "Your favorite prawns." I stared straight at her, holding out the divorce papers again. "You don't have to sign. In 1 week I'll be filing for divorce." Her hand holding the plate shook, and she slammed it down on the table. "Sincere Donovan, can't you see I'm apologizing to you? Just because I didn't pick you up when you came to Germany. You're going to be this cruel? Can you stop this nonsense?" Victoria demanded, her voice rising with emotion. Watching her lose her composure, I found it almost funny. She actually thought I wanted a divorce because she didn't meet me at the airport? In that moment, I lost all interest in continuing the conversation. I stood up to go to my room. "I made all this food, and you're not going to eat a single bite? There's a limit to your tantrums," she yelled after me as I reached the bedroom door. I gave a mocking smile and looked back at the table full of food: pan-seared prawns, garlic scallops, soy-braised sea bass. Ethan had certainly taught her a few things. "Victoria, I don't know whose favorite dishes these are, but I'm allergic to seafood." A flicker of panic and avoidance crossed Victoria's face. With that, I slammed the bedroom door, refusing to say another word to her. In the dining room, Victoria's phone rang incessantly, but she ignored it. It had to be Ethan. A few minutes later, Victoria burst into my room, holding her phone and demanding, "Sincere Donovan, are you seeing someone else? Who is this woman?" I saw the picture on her screen. It was me and Miss Jennings at the steakhouse that afternoon. I tapped the photo, and the screen reverted to her chat with Ethan. He had taken the picture and sent it to her. The most laughable part was her contact name for him, Ethan Baby. What right did a person like this have to question me? I handed the phone back to her and said coldly, "Isn't your Ethan Baby usually well informed?" "That's the divorce lawyer I hired." While Victoria stood there, stunned, I put on my jacket and quickly left. Staying in that house any longer would only make me sicker. I drove back to the Donovan family villa. When I opened the door, I was surprised to see Miss Jennings. My mother hurried over to greet me. "Sincere, you're back just in time. Come, your father has prepared this agreement for you. Take a look." I took the file from Miss Jennings. It was a share transfer agreement for the Donovan Group. My father was turning the company over to me. My father walked down the stairs, his hands clasped behind his back. Well, I'm getting old. The business world belongs to you young people now. The company was always going to be yours anyway. Now that you're divorced, it's the perfect time to focus on your career. I knew my father was making this momentous decision because he was afraid I'd be taken advantage of by Victoria. A lump formed in my throat. I pushed the agreement back to Miss Jennings. "Miss Jennings, let's wait to sign this until after the divorce is finalized. It can't be considered marital property after all." That evening, my father withdrew the $30 million anonymous investment from Victoria's company. 2 days later, I went to the hospital for a follow-up on my arm and ran into Ethan in the lobby. His usual meek demeanor was gone. He grabbed my injured left arm tightly. "Sincere Donovan, you've tortured Victoria these past few days. She's a wreck since you don't care about her anymore. Why don't you just hurry up and divorce her so she can be free?" Ethan's grip was so tight my arm throbbed with pain. I didn't even have the strength to pull away. Let's get something straight. I've already signed the divorce papers. She's the one dragging her feet. She has 3 days left. If she doesn't sign, I'm filing with the court. You know what? You should persuade her. Otherwise, it's not fair to you, is it? Being a secretary who has to work his way into her bed. I looked at Ethan with cold indifference. I felt nothing for him, not even resentment. What nonsense are you talking? Ethan's eyes widened in panic. He glanced around at the passers-by, afraid of making a scene. People in the busy hospital lobby seemed to have caught a whiff of gossip and were straining to listen. Ethan wouldn't let go, still trying to argue, when suddenly Victoria called his phone. I rubbed my arm and headed for the orthopedics department on the 3rd floor without a backward glance. Faintly, I heard Ethan exclaim behind me. What? The investor pulled out? Chapter 7. I went back to the house to pack my things. Since Victoria was always traveling for work, she didn't have much in the house to begin with. As I packed, the house became eerily empty. The enormous wedding portrait on the wall now felt like the ultimate mockery. I took the photo down, placed it in a metal bin, and lit it on fire. I couldn't take it with me, and I couldn't just throw it away. Burning it felt right. Just then, Victoria returned. She rushed in and threw her arms around me, burying her head in my chest. Sincere, you're all I have left. The mystery investor who gave us $30 million pulled out. The company, it's in big trouble. She held me tightly, her tone unusually gentle. I can give up the company, all of it. But please don't leave me. Didn't you always say you wanted a child? Let's have a baby, I sneered inwardly and gently pushed her away. A child? Wasn't she the one who killed our first one? In the first year of our marriage, Victoria had emerged from the bathroom holding a pregnancy test with 2 lines, her face ashen. I was overjoyed and gave her a huge hug, but she frowned and grabbed my hand. Sincere, the company isn't stable yet. This baby is coming at the wrong time. Please, listen to me. We're still young. We can have a child later when we have money, and we can give them the best life and education. When she saw me hesitate, she went to a clinic behind my back and had an abortion. Our child died by her own hand. Afterward, she looked so relieved. I, being naive, thought she'd had a miscarriage due to my lack of care and fell into a deep depression. And now she wanted to talk about having a child. It was too late. Victoria seemed to know what I was thinking, a look of shame on her face. Even though the company lost a huge amount of funding, our operations are stable. We can support ourselves with our own assets. We're in a position to give a child a better life now. She pointed at the empty house. You used to say the house felt too cold. We could take this time to redecorate. She excitedly pulled me by the hand toward the guest room. We can turn this into a nursery. The little one can play in here. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Victoria looked at me with pleading eyes, waiting for me to agree. The standoff hung in the air. Thankfully, a ringing phone broke the tension. She pulled out her phone and quickly declined the call. I saw the caller ID, Ethan. A few seconds later, my phone started ringing. It was Ethan. I answered and put it on speaker. Ethan's triumphant voice came through the phone. Sincere Donovan, is Victoria with you? I'm warning you, stop monopolizing her. Victoria is pregnant with my child. If you know what's good for you, you'll get out of the way and give up your position. As her husband and I held the phone, looked at Victoria with an indifferent expression, and noted the beads of sweat forming on her forehead. After hanging up, I finally spoke. Congratulations. It looks like your vision for a nursery can be realized very soon. But you'd better hurry. It'll take at least 6 months for the paint to air out after you're done decorating. I pointed to the divorce agreement on the table. She knew there was nothing more to say. Victoria's eyes reddened. Finally, with a trembling hand, she signed her name, according to Miss Jennings' professional advice, with concrete proof of Victoria's infidelity. I could have left her with nothing, but I didn't want to wait any longer. I had no interest in her meager assets. I took the signed agreement to Miss Jennings for review. After confirming there were no further disputes, I confidently signed my father's share transfer agreement. I never imagined, however, that the first order of business I would handle upon returning to the Donovan Group would be a visit from the chairperson of Sterling Tech, Victoria Sterling, who had discovered the identity of her mysterious benefactor and wanted to meet in person. Chapter 8. I declined the invitation to the business banquet my secretary presented, but she seemed troubled. "Mr. Donovan, President Sterling from Sterling Tech has been very insistent that you attend. She said if you don't, she'll come to visit you in person. Didn't she say her own funds were enough to support the company? Was she afraid she couldn't support herself and Ethan's child? How laughable. And my child with her was supposed to suffer with a mother on the brink of bankruptcy? I chose a very expensive but sharp suit. Pushing open the doors to the banquet hall, I saw many well-known figures from the business world. Several of them were partners whose deals I had secured over rounds of heavy drinking. The crowd's eyes were filled with anticipation, curious about the identity of the mysterious investor. When they saw it was me, they quickly averted their gazes, looking awkwardly at Victoria. They didn't know we were divorced. "President Sterling, you're hosting a distinguished guest. It's not very good for your husband to be late, is it?" One of them, a Mr. Wagner, remarked. Ethan, sitting next to Victoria, jumped in. "Mr. Wagner, Sincere, and Vicky are divorced." Seeing Ethan's smug expression, everyone understood the situation. Victoria shook off Ethan's arm and walked quickly towards me. "Sincere, you came for me, didn't you? You've come to your senses and want to come back to me, right? I knew you couldn't let me go. I can remarry you right away. Please, stop this game, okay?" I scanned the faces of everyone present. Under their watchful eyes, I pushed Victoria away and slowly walked to the empty seat of honor at the head of the table. "Victoria, I came because I accepted your invitation to a banquet, not to discuss our personal lives. But since you brought it up, you want to remarry me? Then what about the baby in your belly?" I sat down calmly. At the mention of Victoria being pregnant, the faces of the business leaders in the room changed. Everyone in our circle knew she had been on a business trip in Germany alone for over 6 months. Ethan became frantic, slamming his hand on the table and pointing at me. "Sincere Donovan, that seat is for the main shareholder of Sterling Tech. What gives you the right to sit there?" I swirled the wine in my glass. "Didn't you find out the major shareholder was from the Donovan Group? I'm sitting right in front of you. Is this how you help your boss negotiate with me, Secretary Hayes?" I put down my glass, my eyes glinting with amusement as I looked at Ethan. Everyone, including Victoria, finally understood who I was. Ethan clenched his fists in disbelief. Victoria pushed Ethan aside and, ignoring the strange looks from everyone, knelt at my feet. Ethan staggered backward. "Sincere, let's stop this. Come home with me. You should be careful, Miss Sterling. After all, you're carrying Ethan's child." I turned away, avoiding her sickening face. "The child? If you come home with me, I'll get rid of Ethan's child immediately. I'm begging you, Sincere. I can't live without you." The family drama was now public knowledge. No one could have imagined that the rising star of the business world, Victoria Sterling, was a promiscuous floozy who had cheated on her husband. I stood up, shook off her hand, and said sharply, "I came here today as a final courtesy to you. But your sincerity is lacking, Miss Sterling. Let me be frank, the Donovan Group will not invest another cent in Sterling Tech. As for the rest of you," I said, addressing the room, "you are all business associates. Victoria and I are divorced. Whether you continue to work with them is your own decision." Without a backward glance, I walked out. The partners whose business I had brought in followed me, shaking their heads as they left. I never saw Victoria again after that. Chapter 9. To better manage the company, I enrolled in an executive management program and threw myself into my work, barely having a moment to breathe. During my lunch break, I was munching on a sandwich while organizing my notes when an elegant lunchbox appeared in front of me. A sandwich alone won't give you enough brain power. The woman who spoke looked vaguely familiar. Seeing my confused stare, she smoothed down her exquisite dress. "What, you don't recognize me? I heard you stood me up on our blind date and turned around to marry some floozy from the wrong side of the tracks." "A blind date?" I studied her more closely and finally recognized her. She was Rosalind Rockwell, the heiress my family friend, Mr. Rockwell, had tried to set me up with. I pushed her lunchbox back toward her. "Are you here to laugh at me, Ms. Rockwell?" Rosalind scoffed. "What's so funny about divorce? You get married for happiness, and you get divorced for happiness, too." I was taken aback. I hadn't expected an heiress from a prestigious family to be so open-minded. That afternoon in class, I discovered that Rosalind was enrolled in the same executive program. She was nothing like the brainless socialite I had imagined, who only cared about clothes and makeup. Her business acumen was far more advanced than mine. "Of course it is," she said without a hint of modesty when I praised her at the graduation ceremony. "I didn't even go to that blind date. I flew to the States to get away from it all and spent 5 years studying there under the guise of just having fun." Eventually, my father officially handed the company over to me. After announcing his retirement, he and my mother set off on a trip around the world. Over the next year, the Donovan Group and the Rockwell family partnered, and our businesses flourished. I moved through the circles of high society business events. While my father's reputation opened doors, I discovered I had a natural talent for negotiation. As for Victoria, no one ever mentioned her in my presence again. It was as if she had never existed. Chapter 10. The day the Donovan Group was officially listed on the NASDAQ in the United States, I was ecstatic and had a few too many drinks at the celebration party. My secretary drove me home. As I staggered toward my front door, I lost my footing and fell into someone's arms. "Rosalind, what are you doing?" I shouted her name, my face flushing, trying to lean back comfortably only to find the embrace loosen. "Sincere, it's me," a once familiar voice whispered in my ear. I opened my eyes and saw her clearly. It was Victoria. The sight sobered me up instantly. She was disheveled, her clothes wrinkled. She looked nothing like the renowned young female entrepreneur she once was. She told me that after that fateful banquet, Sterling Tech couldn't secure a single investment. She had hoped to weather the storm with her own capital, but Ethan was a parasite, spending money wildly. He used her pregnancy to get her to buy him a car and a house, but he continued to smoke and drink throughout. When he was in a bad mood, he would sometimes get violent with her. In the end, Victoria gave birth to a child with cerebral palsy. The company was already in trouble, and now she had a child with a congenital defect. Victoria was overwhelmed, while Ethan did nothing but go out to party and argue with her. He was no help at all. One day, Victoria came home from the hospital with the baby and couldn't find Ethan anywhere. She later found out he had run off with a wealthy older woman, abandoning her with their 5-month-old disabled baby. Soon after, her company went completely bankrupt. She had no income and a sick child to support. Seeing her in such a destitute state, I thought back to the plane crash in Germany. As I lay on the brink of death, she was in Ethan's bed. Victoria's current situation was far better than mine had been. At least she had all her limbs. She wasn't going to die. She looked at me with a tentative yet sincere gaze. "Sincere, I know I was wrong. If it's possible, could you maybe—" Before she could finish, Rosalind's bright, cheerful voice called out from behind her. "Sincere Donovan." I turned toward the sound just as a cascade of fireworks lit up the night sky. Rosalind was waving at me, holding a bouquet of flowers. I ran to her with a smile and swept her into a huge hug. As the fireworks bloomed and faded in the sky, she pressed the bouquet into my hands. "Congratulations on the Donovan Group's successful NASDAQ listing today. Sincere, I was stuck in meetings all day and didn't have a chance to celebrate with you. You're not mad at me, are you?" I laughed and accepted the large bouquet of roses. She then reached into her coat pocket with a mysterious air and pulled out a small, exquisite box. She held up the diamond ring she had prepared and looked me straight in the eye. "Sincere Donovan, marry me after everything I had been through. I thought I would never have any desire for marriage again. But as this moment unfolded before me, tears began to stream down my face. So this is what it feels like to be chosen, to be truly wanted." My eyes red, I nodded and held out my hand to her. Rosalind carefully slid the diamond ring onto my finger. It was only then that I remembered Victoria had been standing there just a moment ago. I glanced back at where she had been, but the spot was empty. It didn't matter. Victoria's life had nothing to do with mine anymore. After Rosalind put the ring on my finger, I joyfully picked her up and spun her around twice. Looking at the incredibly happy woman before me, I knew only one thing. My future would be happier than I had ever imagined. I came back from a business trip. The first thing I did was go find my girlfriend to get intimate. But halfway through, I was dumbfounded. My girlfriend has a mole just below her heart, but this person didn't. Besides, my girlfriend and I have lived together for 3 years. She was far from a virgin. Chapter 1. When I woke up the next day, the room was empty. My girlfriend was gone. I'd had a bit too much to drink last night. At that moment, I was still in a daze. I checked the time. I had overslept. There was an important meeting I had to attend today. With no time to think, I quickly washed up. I grabbed my jacket and rushed out the door. That evening, a friend of mine, Henry Davis, was having a birthday party. When I arrived, the private room was packed. They were playing Truth or Dare. The moment I saw my girlfriend's twin sister sitting next to her, my mind exploded. So last night wasn't a hallucination? When did Willow Miller get back from studying abroad? As I stepped into the room, my suspicions were confirmed. My girlfriend, Vivian Miller, looked at me, completely stunned. "Sincere, you're back from your trip? How come I didn't know?" As she said this, her twin sister, Willow Miller, blushed crimson. She lowered her head, not daring to look at me. I forced myself to remain calm. "The project wrapped up early, so I came back. I wanted to surprise you, but there wasn't a soul at home." Vivian didn't think much of it and said casually, "I went back to the family home yesterday. I only got back this afternoon. Wasn't my little sister sleeping at home last night?" "You didn't see her?" Beside her, Willow buried her head even lower. Her face was so red it looked like it was about to bleed. I went to bed early last night. I didn't hear anything. The noise in the room sounded distant, as if it were coming through glass. My mind was flooded with the clear yet chaotic images from the night before. The two sisters looked identical. Remembering the passionate scenes from last night, even now, the memory made my mouth go dry. I mumbled, "I didn't get home until almost dawn. I didn't notice." Vivian gave me a suspicious look but didn't press the issue. "Sincere, what are you spacing out for?" Henry nudged me from the side. "You're late 3 penalty. Shots for you." I snapped back to reality and downed the glass of red wine my friend had poured for me. Chapter 2. A short while later, someone else walked into the room. It was my girlfriend Vivian's old flame, Ethan Sterling. Without a word, he sat down on the other side of Vivian. Ethan had only returned to the country a month ago. The night he came back, Vivian threw a grand welcome home party for him. She lied to me, saying she had urgent company business and would be home late. I didn't think anything of it at the time. But in the middle of the night, her assistant called me. She said a problem had come up with a company project. It required Vivian's personal attention to resolve, but she couldn't reach her. That's why the call came to me. I tried her work phone. Sure enough, it was off. I had no choice but to call her personal number. Vivian usually carried 2 phones. Only her family and a few of her closest friends knew her personal number. She hung up on me more than a dozen times in a row. Soon, she sent an impatient text message. "Sincere, can you stop being so annoying? I already told you, I have something urgent at work to deal with. What's the meaning of you calling me over and over?" After sending that message, her personal phone was also turned off. That night, I contacted a private investigator to track her movements. That's when I found out about the welcome party she threw for Ethan. Ethan had too much to drink at the party and ended up in the hospital on an IV drip. Vivian stayed by his side the entire night. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I sat on the sofa until dawn. When she returned, she saw me sitting there, my eyes bloodshot, and jumped. "Sincere, you're up so early. Why don't you get some more sleep?" I looked at her coldly. "Is your company's project crisis resolved?" Her eyes flickered, unable to meet my gaze. "Of course. With me on the case, is there anything that can't be solved?" A sarcastic smile touched my lips. "Oh, is that so? Your assistant couldn't reach you last night, so she called me. She said the project's problem was extremely serious and required your personal intervention to fix. I was so worried about you, but I see you've already handled it." The moment I finished speaking, Vivian's face changed dramatically. She hastily pulled out her phone to check. When she saw the messages from her assistant, her body trembled violently. How could this be? Chapter 3. I feigned concern. What's wrong? You look terrible. Were you too tired last night? Sincere, I have an emergency. I have to get to the office. Her face was pale as she dropped that line and rushed off. Unsurprisingly, the problem with her project was severe. Because of Vivian's delayed response, the company suffered a direct loss of a couple million. What Vivian did next was even more outrageous. She hired Ethan as her personal assistant. I flew into a rage on the spot, and we had a massive fight. Sincere, Ethan and I grew up together. I only see him as a little brother. Can you please stop being so unreasonable? If there was anything between Ethan and me, why would I have chosen to be with you? People with dirty minds see everything as dirty at that moment. My chronic stomach pain flared up. Vivian couldn't be bothered to argue with me anymore. She rushed me to the hospital, but halfway there she got a call from Ethan. Without a second thought, she dropped me off on the side of the road. At that moment, my stomach suddenly didn't hurt as much. I quickly hailed a cab and followed her. I ended up outside an old apartment building. There, I saw Ethan sobbing in Vivian's arms. He held up a finger with a tiny scrape on it. Vivian, I'm so clumsy, I was just trying to cut some fruit, and I cut my finger. It hurts so much, Vivian. Am I going to get tetanus? Am I going to die? Damn it, that pathetic sissy boy. Seeing this scene, my anger shot through the roof. I stormed over furiously. I grabbed him by the hair and slapped him hard across the face. The slap sent him sprawling to the ground. I followed up with a few vicious kicks. I beat him until he was a bloody mess. Sincere, what are you doing? Vivian shrieked and threw herself at me. She held me back tightly, her eyes red. Sincere, have you lost your mind? Ethan is just a kid. How could you be so rough with him? I let out a derisive laugh. Heh, a kid, a 26-year-old kid. Why don't you ask him if he's hit puberty yet? Clinging to someone else's girlfriend in broad daylight and not letting go. Vivian, do you take me for a fool? I violently shook off Vivian's hand, my voice turning to ice. We're done, you scumbag girl. Go comfort your kid. After saying that, I turned and walked away without a second glance. Behind me, I heard Vivian's panicked shouts and Ethan's whiny, manipulative words of comfort. Vivian, it's all my fault. Please don't fight because of me. I shouldn't have called you. Chapter 4. My stomach issue wasn't a big deal. A little medicine and it was fine. I was in a terrible mood. That night, I called Henry Davis out for drinks again. His words were a real wake-up call. Sincere, why do you care so much? Vivian and her old flame are tangled up together. Are you seriously still planning on marrying her? Vivian was the campus belle in college, with a delicate face and a stunning, curvy figure. We had years of history between us. If Ethan hadn't shown up, I really would have planned to marry her. But now, there was no way in hell. I immediately shook my head. Since you're not going to marry her, what are you torn up about? If she agrees to cut ties, fine. If not, just find someone else. You're Sincere Prescott. You're handsome, you're rich. What kind of woman can't you find? If she still wants to be with you, just treat her like a free lover. It's not her cheating on you, it's you cheating on her future husband. He winked at me, a lewd grin on his face. She's gorgeous, great body, you're not losing out. Damn, his words hit me like a ton of bricks. Suddenly, everything became clear. Sure enough, over the next period, she called me more than a dozen times a day. I didn't answer a single one, and I didn't go back. It wasn't until a week later that she cornered me outside my company building. She looked haggard, with heavy dark circles under her eyes. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she rushed over to grab my arm. Sincere, I was wrong last time. Please don't be angry. The Sterling family's overseas businesses went bankrupt. Ethan is going through a really tough time right now. I just felt sorry for him, so I wanted to take care of him a bit more. Don't be jealous. I swear, you're the only one I'll ever love. She threw herself at me, hugging me tightly. Sincere, I'll be more careful from now on. I will never betray you. Please come back during this time. I had my private investigator keeping tabs on her. I confirmed that nothing had happened between her and Ethan. Otherwise, if she had actually slept with him, I would never touch her again, no matter how much I craved her body. I felt the soft, supple body in my arms and the familiar scent of her perfume. My body's reaction was honest. That night, we unlocked several new positions. But Ethan wouldn't give up. Every few days, he would send me provocative, intimate photos of him and Vivian. Pictures of them eating together, standing extremely close in the office, or serving each other food at a company party. At night, I would show these photos to Vivian one by one. I used her guilt to punish her mercilessly. We tried almost every uniform and fantasy imaginable. Even during my business trip abroad, I kept receiving provocative photos from Ethan. I had planned to punish Vivian harshly as soon as I got back, but I never expected to accidentally involve Willow. Chapter 5. In the private room, after a few rounds of drinks, everyone started playing Truth or Dare. Ethan lost and was dared to kiss any person of the opposite sex in the room. Without hesitation, he kissed Vivian on the cheek. The atmosphere instantly became awkward. Many people secretly glanced at me to see my reaction. I just smiled nonchalantly. "Why is everyone looking at me?" "Carry on," Vivian quickly explained. "Sincere, don't overthink it. You know I've always seen Ethan as a little brother." I nodded slightly, feigning understanding. If this had happened before, I wouldn't have just flipped the table. It's debatable whether Ethan would have even walked out of that room. But now my attention was focused on Willow Miller. While both sisters were flawlessly beautiful with incredible figures, Willow's eyes were clearer, more pure. From the moment I walked in, she had been stealing shy glances at me. Even a fool could see the affection in her eyes. Seeing that I wasn't angry, Vivian let out a huge sigh of relief. A few more rounds passed. Henry, my trusty wingman, dared me to kiss any person of the opposite sex in the room. Vivian was sure I would kiss her. She looked at me with eyes full of anticipation, but without a moment's hesitation I leaned in and kissed her sister, Willow. The moment my lips touched Willow's, the entire room fell dead silent. Everyone stared at me in disbelief. Willow's red lips were like cotton candy, soft and sweet. Her eyes went wide as she stared at me. I don't know if it was because she was nervous, but her hands gripped my arms tightly and wouldn't let go. The anticipation on Vivian's face froze into shock, then flushed with a humiliating red. She clutched the hem of her dress so tightly her knuckles turned white. Whoa, Henry was the first to react, leading the room in wolf whistles and cheers. Way to go. Sincere playing it wild. My friends had long been fed up with Vivian and that scumbag Ethan. The room erupted in a cacophony of noise. Whistles and jeers all mixed together. Bang, Vivian exploded. She shot up from her seat and pulled me away with surprising strength. Sincere, she was like a lit powder keg, her eyes practically shooting fire. "Sincere, are you insane? Willow is my sister. How could you do something like that to her right in front of me?" Chapter 6. I ran my thumb over the corner of my mouth. The soft, sweet sensation hadn't faded. I looked at Vivian with a sneer. "Vivian, it's just a game. Why are you getting so worked up? I've always thought of Willow as a little sister. If there was anything between us, it would have happened long ago. Why would I have ended up with you, see? When you have a dirty mind, you see everything as dirty." I threw her own words right back at her. Her face instantly turned beet red and she trembled, speechless. Ethan quickly stood up to defend her. "Mr. Prescott, you're just doing this to provoke Vivian, aren't you? There's nothing going on between Vivian and me. Even if you're jealous, there should be a limit. Vivian works so hard. Can't you just give her a break?" It seemed I had been too lenient with him. Did every stray cat and dog now think they could walk all over me? My eyes filled with menace. "You've been sending me provocative photos every few days, you bastard. I ignored you. And you really started thinking you were something special, didn't you?" I grabbed a wine bottle from the table and smashed it over his head. Crash, the bottle shattered instantly, sending glass shards and red wine flying everywhere. The scene descended into chaos. Ethan clutched his forehead, screaming as he fell to the ground. Blood gushed from between his fingers. Vivian, frantic, rushed to check his injuries. She was heartbroken, tears streaming down her face. Seeing this, Ethan panicked and tried to wipe her tears away. "Vivian, don't cry. I'm fine. It's all my fault. I made you worry again." His words only fueled Vivian's rage. She spun around and roared at me. "Sincere, what the hell is wrong with you?" I narrowed my eyes at her. "Vivian, if I really lost it, I have plenty of ways to deal with him. Do you really think you can protect him?" My words struck her dumb, her face turning pale. She didn't dare to shout anymore. She hastily took Ethan to the hospital to get his wound treated. She dragged Willow away with her as well. Chapter 7. It was almost midnight when we left the private room. After some thought, I decided to go back to my own place. I was halfway through a shower when Vivian somehow found her way there. She barged right in, pushing open the bathroom door. She was naked, clinging to me. I tried to push her away, but she only held on tighter. To be honest, If it weren't for this whole incident with Willow, I could have continued playing along with her. But now, being touched by Vivian, I felt an inexplicable wave of nausea. Sincere, I know I've been too close with Ethan, and it made you jealous. I was wrong. I'll be more careful from now on. Can you please stop targeting him? So she was here to plead for her pretty boy after all. I forcefully pried her hands off me. I grabbed her by her delicate neck. With a single motion, I dragged her out of the bathroom and threw her to the floor. Vivian landed hard, clutching her throat and coughing relentlessly. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Sincere, are you crazy? How could you do this to me? I wrapped a towel around my waist and looked down at her with icy eyes. Who let you into my house? Get out. Vivian lay on the cold floor, coughing so hard she almost cried. A glaring red mark was visible on her neck. She looked up at me as if seeing me for the first time. Sincere, how could you treat me like this? We've been together for so many years. You never used to lay a hand on me, and you have the nerve to bring up the past. I leaned against the bathroom doorway, my eyes devoid of any warmth. In the past, I valued you too much. That's why I tolerated you lying to me time and time again, protecting Ethan time and time again. But the you right now, I paused, deliberately adding weight to my words. You make me sick. I don't know if my words struck a nerve, but Vivian shrieked. Sick? She scrambled up from the floor. She frantically grabbed her scattered clothes and threw them on. Sincere, you used to treat me like a princess, saying you would love me for a lifetime. I don't believe you can just let go like this. You kissed Willow in the room today, and you pushed me away just now. Isn't this all because you're jealous? Trying to provoke me this way, forcing me to draw a line with Ethan. Do you think this is fun? I didn't answer, just watched her with cold indifference. Chapter 8. Her tone grew even sharper. Let me tell you, Sincere, don't you forget, if I hadn't saved you back then, you would have died. You were in a coma in the hospital for a week. Who watched over you for 7 days and 7 nights? It was me. She took a step forward, her eyes red as she stared at me. And now you want to dump me? Let me tell you, it's impossible. You'll never get rid of me in this lifetime. After saying this, she snatched her purse from the floor and slammed the door behind her as she left. I watched her retreating figure and fell into a thoughtful silence. Back in college, I was in a car accident, a collision with a large truck that nearly killed me. It was Vivian who, disregarding her own safety, dragged me out of the burning car. The second she pulled me to the side of the road, there was a deafening explosion. Boom, my sports car was instantly engulfed in flames, and the heat wave sent both of us flying. When I woke up again, a week had passed. The white hospital room was filled with the strong smell of disinfectant. Vivian was slumped over the side of my bed, her hair a mess, with dark circles under her eyes. It looked like she hadn't had a good night's sleep in a long time. She was holding my hand tightly. When she saw my eyes open, she froze for a moment, and then tears started falling, one after another. Her voice was hoarse. Sob, Sincere, you're finally awake. I'll go get the doctor right now. When a pretty nurse came in to change my IV, she even joked, Hey, handsome, your girlfriend is so good to you. She's barely slept these past 7 days and nights. She's cried herself dry. The day I was discharged, she stood under the large plane tree at the hospital entrance, holding a huge bouquet of roses, and confessed her feelings to me. The dappled sunlight fell on her. In that moment, she was ethereally beautiful. Sincere, I like you. I want to take care of you for the rest of my life. Will you be my boyfriend? It would be a lie to say I wasn't moved. Back then, it seemed like her eyes only had me in them. The memory of that gentleness made me smile unconsciously during countless nights. I swore then and there that I would repay her for the rest of my life. Around that time, rumors started circulating that the Miller Corporation was on the verge of bankruptcy. She hugged me tightly, her eyes red. Sincere, my family's company is about to collapse. Without any hesitation, I went home and fought tooth and nail to convince my parents to invest. I even risked falling out with the opposing shareholders. After I took over the Prescott Group, the first thing I thought of when it came to high-quality partnerships and projects was the Miller Corporation. Vivian's status in the Miller family skyrocketed. She became the designated heir without any question. It was out of gratitude for her saving my life back then that I tolerated her again and again, leading to the situation we're in today. Chapter 9. The next day, Willow Miller invited me to her welcome home party. Of course, I would attend her invitation. Back then, besides Willow, many other classmates had gone abroad to study with her. When I arrived at the hotel, I found that all these PhDs were present. Vivian was there too. Ethan was probably still laid up in the hospital, so for once he wasn't by her side. After a few rounds of drinks, one of Willow's best friends teased, "Willow, you risked your life to save Sincere back then. You liked him so much, and now he's your brother-in-law. Fate really is a funny thing, isn't it?" As soon as she said this, Vivian's face drained of color. She shot up from her seat. Her movement was so abrupt that she knocked her chair over. Crash, it made a huge noise. My mind went completely blank. What? Willow saved me? Vivian pointed at the girl and started cursing. "Isabel Reed, it was obviously me who saved Sincere. Stop spouting nonsense here." At this point, all the classmates in the room sensed that something was wrong. Isabel Reed also came from a wealthy family. Being pointed at and cursed out by Vivian, her temper flared. "Vivian Miller, I was right there. You were so scared your legs turned to jelly you saved him? Do you have any shame? Other people might not be able to tell you two apart, but I'm Willow's best friend. You think I can't tell the difference?" Isabel looked at my confused expression, then at Willow's downcast face, and it all clicked. "Oh, I finally get what's going on back then. Willow watched over Sincere in the hospital for 7 days and nights. She just went home to grab some clean clothes, and when she came back, she saw you two hugging. She was heartbroken, and that's why she dragged me to study abroad with her. At the time, I even cursed Sincere out for being a scumbag, so it was you, her older sister, who stole her credit and her man. How could you be so shameless?" Chapter 10. You're lying. Vivian's face was contorted with rage. She rushed forward to grab Isabel's arm, but was held back by several classmates. "It was me who saved Sincere from the explosion, and it was me who stayed by his side in the hospital. Willow Miller, stop playing the victim in front of everyone to get sympathy." Willow finally lifted her head, a light mist clouding her clear eyes. She tugged on Isabel's arm. "Forget it, it's all in the past." Isabel looked at her with an expression of utter exasperation. "Willow, you've been bullied by your sister your whole life. Anything you set your eyes on, she would snatch away. How long are you going to put up with her?" Ignoring Willow's protests, Isabel forcibly took a string of Bodhi prayer beads from her purse. "Willow, you cried over these prayer beads every day for all those years we were abroad." She held the beads up to my face. "These prayer beads were salvaged along with you when Willow saved you from the car crash. Are you telling me these aren't yours?" The moment those Bodhi prayer beads appeared, my eyes widened in shock. The dark brown beads were worn smooth and shiny from being handled. On the very last bead, there was a tiny crack. This string of Bodhi prayer beads was the only thing my mother had left me. I had worn it for 5 whole years. I didn't have time to take it off when the crash happened. "Those beads are mine." The room of classmates exploded. I was a big shot in college. Besides my good looks and top grades, I was also the student council president and the sole heir to the Prescott family, the wealthiest in the city. You could say that the line of girls chasing me back then could have stretched from the academic building to the campus gates. Someone pointed at Vivian, calling her a manipulative schemer. Someone else looked at Willow with sympathy, and others took out their phones to secretly record the scene unfolding before them. Vivian collapsed to the floor, listening to the murmurs of the classmates around her. Looking into my ice-cold eyes, she finally broke down. She crawled over and grabbed my pant leg. "Sincere, I really didn't mean to. Sincere, I just liked you too much." I kicked her away. Without giving her another glance, I strode out of the room. Behind me, I could hear her heart-wrenching sobs. Chapter 11. I left the hotel. The first thing I did was call my private investigator. I told him to look into my car accident from all those years ago. That evening, Vivian was kneeling in front of my villa. She was slapping herself hard, again and again, the sounds sharp and clear. She was using her full strength. Soon, her face was swollen. Blood trickled from the corners of her mouth. She looked at me, her eyes filled with pleading. "Sincere, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please forgive me. As long as you forgive me, I'll do anything you ask." Of course, I knew why she was scared. The reason she dared to flirt with Ethan all this time was that she was banking on the favor of having saved my life. She was certain that no matter how angry I got, as long as she didn't truly cross the line, I would never completely sever ties with her. She, Vivian Miller, would still be the great young lady of the Miller family, the heir to the Miller Corporation, and even the future Mrs. Prescott. But things were different now. She had lost her biggest piece of leverage over me. She was even afraid that I would retaliate against her for the deception, and the Miller family, to appease my anger, might very well cast her aside like a pawn. I smiled faintly and helped her up. I tenderly touched her badly swollen cheek and spoke slowly. "Vivian, you're overthinking things. We've been together for so many years. How could I not give you a chance? I know you only claimed your sister's credit because you liked me so much. I don't blame you. But everyone knows you're my girlfriend, the future Mrs. Prescott. Yet you've been carrying on with another man. You've made me lose a lot of face." Vivian seemed to understand what I was implying and quickly pledged her loyalty. "Sincere, I know I was wrong. Believe me, I have never done anything to betray you. Don't worry, Sincere. I absolutely will not disappoint you this time." I watched her leave, a meaningful smile playing on my lips. Chapter 12. Vivian was certainly ruthless enough. Just 2 hours later, she sent me a video. In the video, Ethan was on the ground like a dog, covered in blood. His limbs were twisted at unnatural angles. They were clearly broken. He groveled on the floor, begging for mercy with none of the smugness he had when he was provoking me. Vivian truly did not disappoint. The only person she ever loved was herself. When her own interests were at stake, the lives of others meant nothing. If a cold-hearted snake of a woman like this ever gained power, she would absolutely turn on me to avenge her old flame. As I was lost in thought, Vivian's call came in. "Sincere, did you see the video? I promise you Ethan will never appear before you again. Please don't be angry, okay?" I didn't say a word. I just hung up the phone. I called my assistant, Quentin. "Double the security personnel at the company headquarters and at my villa. Starting tomorrow. Dump all shares of the Miller Corporation and cancel all of our partnerships with them." "Understood, Mr. Prescott." Chapter 13. The next day, the Miller Corporation's stock completely collapsed. Once the official announcement of our partnership cancellation was released, the Miller family went into a full-blown panic. Nearly 70% of the Miller Corporation's business came from my family's company. Once I pulled out, other partners weren't fools. To protect themselves, they all chose to sever ties with the Miller Corporation. The Millers were like ants on a hot pan, frantically calling me. Of course, I wouldn't answer. I rejected every call. With no other options, the Miller family scrambled to find help elsewhere. Unfortunately, everyone knew that the Millers had offended the Prescott Group, the city's leading enterprise. Who would dare get involved at a time like this? Friends who used to call them brothers either didn't answer their calls or avoided them completely. The head of the Miller family had no choice but to bring Vivian to my door to apologize in person. Worried they might do something desperate, I had more than a dozen security guards come into the room with me. Vivian was forced to kneel before me, stripped of all her pride as the Miller heir. "Sincere, I really know I was wrong. Everything before was my fault. Sincere, didn't we agree to get married by the end of this year? I'll agree to it. We can go take wedding photos tomorrow, okay?" she cried pitifully, a picture of sorrow. Vivian crawled towards me like a dog, trying to grab my pant leg, but I kicked her away. "Vivian Miller, what makes you think I would still marry a liar like you? The trust between us has crumbled. There's no going back." Vivian's face turned ashen as she stared at me blankly. Her father, Arthur Miller, forced a hideous smile, his forehead slick with cold sweat. "Mr. Prescott, Sincere, it's all this girl's fault. She's been spoiled since she was a child. It's all my family's fault for the sake of the many years Vivian has been with you. Please give the Miller Corporation a chance to survive. I promise you, from now on, the Miller family will follow the Prescott Group's lead in everything." I looked at the father-daughter pair before me, one a hypocrite, the other ruthless. Like father, like daughter. Chapter 14. "Mr. Miller," I began slowly, my tone distant. "It's not that I'm unwilling to give your family a way out. It's that Vivian deceived me first, then provoked me with Ethan. My pride, the pride of the Prescott family, can't just be trampled on without any consequences, can it?" Yes, of course," Arthur Miller nodded and bowed obsequiously. He shot Vivian a harsh glare. "You worthless thing. Look at the mess you've made. Get on your knees and beg Sincere for forgiveness." Now Vivian's face was pale as she kowtowed repeatedly on the ground. "Sincere, I really know I was wrong. Please, just give me one more chance." Arthur Miller watched me cautiously. "Sincere, the news of our family's marriage alliance was released at the beginning of the year. Since Vivian knows she was wrong, and she didn't actually do anything to betray you, perhaps you could see—" I gave him a cool glance. "The marriage alliance and the business partnerships can continue, Mr. Miller. You don't just have one daughter, do you? Vivian's expression changed dramatically. She stared at me in disbelief and shrieked, "Sincere, you want to marry Willow Miller? What is Willow? What right does she have to take my place as Mrs. Prescott? Sincere, how could you do this to me?" I didn't look at her, my gaze fixed on Arthur Miller with a half-smile. A muscle in his face twitched violently. His eyes were a complex mix of emotions, shock, struggle, and embarrassment. But mostly, it was shrewd calculation. The Miller Corporation was hanging by a thread, and a marriage alliance was the fastest way out of the crisis. As for whether the bride was Vivian or Willow, for the Miller family as a whole, it seemed there wasn't much difference. In fact, because Willow didn't have all this messy baggage, perhaps she was a better fit. Once that thought took root, it quickly spread through his mind. Dad, Vivian saw the hesitation in her father's eyes. She grabbed his arm in terror. "Dad, you can't agree. Sincere is mine. He's always loved me. He's just angry with me. He's trying to get revenge. How can you push Willow to him?" Arthur Miller violently shook her hand off, his voice seething. "Shut up. Haven't you caused enough trouble already? If you hadn't screwed things up, would our family be in this position?" He turned back to me, his face once again plastered with a fawning, hypocritical smile. "Sincere? Mr. Prescott, you're right. That child, Willow, she's quiet, never fights for anything. She's been a good girl since she was little. She might indeed be a better fit." Dad, Vivian let out a blood-curdling scream, as if her entire world was collapsing. She had been raised as the successor, the future hope of the Miller family. Her whole life, her sister Willow had never been able to compete with her. But now, in the face of family interests, her own father had abandoned her so easily. I watched the drama of the Miller family turning on each other with a cold heart. I was already well aware of their heartlessness. "I'm glad you understand, Mr. Miller." I nodded slightly. "Then it's settled." Vivian was dragged away by her father, unwilling and resentful. Chapter 15. Arthur Miller was quite the character. He sent Willow over that very night. I wrapped my arms around Willow's soft body, inhaling the faint, clean scent of her body wash. My heart skipped a beat. It seemed she had bathed before coming. The Miller twins were goddess-level beauties back in college. Their faces were almost perfectly exquisite. Their enchanting figures, in particular, were the subject of countless fantasies. My gaze drifted downwards to Willow's long, shapely legs, which were incredibly alluring. I met her large, expressive eyes and smiled. "When I came back from my trip last time, I mistook you for Vivian. Why didn't you push me away? Or is it as Isabel said, you really do like me?" Willow's cheeks flushed bright red. Her eyes darted around, not daring to meet mine, and her voice was barely a whisper. I was just stunned. I didn't know how to react." The excuse was so clumsy that it seemed even she didn't believe it. Her voice grew quieter and quieter. I gently lifted her chin, forcing her to look at me. Her usually clear eyes were now filled with shyness and panic. "Willow, are you here tonight of your own free will, or did your father force you? If it's the latter, I can let you go." Willow's body trembled slightly. After a long moment, she took a deep breath. Her voice was still soft, but it carried a note of determination. "He didn't force me." She paused for a second before looking directly into my eyes and continuing. A long time ago, I already liked you, even before my sister did. So that night I gently caressed her smooth, delicate chin, my eyes fixed on her luscious red lips. "You were willing?" Willow's face grew even redder. She quickly lowered her head in embarrassment and let out a soft I hesitated no longer and leaned down to kiss her. "Mmph." She let out a small gasp, her body stiffening for a moment before relaxing, responding to me with clumsy inexperience. That night was exceptionally passionate. We didn't stop until just before dawn. The next few days were the same. Willow grew more and more proactive, her movements becoming more skilled. Chapter 16. But a week later, not only was the Miller Corporation's crisis not resolved, but Vivian had been arrested. The Millers couldn't sit still any longer. They pushed Willow to come find me at my office. She pushed open my office door, her face etched with urgency. "Sincere, how did my sister get arrested? And you promised to continue our business partnership. Why hasn't anything happened yet?" Vivian's arrest was, of course, my doing. Ethan had been missing for days, and his family was going frantic. As the city's youngest self-made billionaire, I had a deep-seated hatred for such criminal behavior. I sent the video of Vivian torturing Ethan to the police. Vivian was taken in for questioning that same day. It seemed she wouldn't be able to escape the charge of attempted murder. I looked at Willow coldly. What, are you questioning me? Or do you want to end up like your sister, locked away for the rest of your life? Willow panicked instantly. A flash of fear crossed her eyes, and she didn't dare to look at me. Sincere, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I took the private investigator's report and threw it at her face. The pages scattered, fluttering through the air and landing all over the floor. You don't understand? My voice was bone-chillingly cold as I said, word by word, that car crash in college. Don't tell me you had nothing to do with it, Willow Miller. My demeanor terrified Willow, and she trembled violently. She instinctively looked down at the documents scattered around her feet. It was all evidence from the car crash. There were bank transfer records, photos, even a confession from the truck driver, and other supporting materials. She was just a college student back then, not meticulous enough. Many loose ends she failed to clean up had been dug up. In truth, I had gotten my hands on this evidence even before Arthur Miller came to see me. I just thought Willow was attractive and decided to play with her a little longer. It would be a shame to send her away too soon, wouldn't it? Chapter 17. Her breathing suddenly became ragged, and all the color drained from her lips. She swayed, nearly falling over. No, it's not like that. Sincere, let me explain. She rushed forward to grab my arm, trying to defend herself. Explain? I shoved her hand away, grabbing her by the hair and pulling her close. Her eyes were filled with terror as she shook her head frantically. Here, let me explain for you. Your family's company was facing a severe financial crisis back then, and your father couldn't turn things around no matter what he tried. You thought your opportunity had come, didn't you? Your sister was raised to be the heir. If things continued that way, you would never have a chance. So you set your sights on me. You staged a damsel saving the hero drama so that I would be eternally grateful, and you could use my influence to rise to power. What a shame in the end your sister stole the fruits of your victory at the last moment. You knew your father backed her, so you were no match for her in a direct confrontation. That's why you chose to retreat to advance. Going abroad to study and biding your time, and after you returned, you used Isabel's mouth to reveal the truth of what happened back then. You knew that years of deception would make me lose my mind with rage, and thus, you achieved your goal of using my hand to eliminate your sister. If I'm not mistaken, you were the one who tricked Ethan into coming back to the country too, weren't you? My voice grew louder, my gaze colder. Tears streamed down Willow's face, the fear in her eyes intensifying. Chapter 18. No, I never meant to hurt you. She shook her head desperately. I calculated everything, the time, the section of the road, the speed. At most, you would have only suffered minor injuries. I never thought the crash would be so severe. I'm sorry, Sincere, I was wrong, Willow Miller. You're far more terrifying than your sister. At least Vivian's malice was on the surface. But Willow, with her gentle, pure, and innocent facade, had woven the most venomous web. And unfortunately for me, I was her prey. No, Sincere, I really do love you. She tried to grab my arm again, but I threw her off violently. Love me? I laughed as if I'd heard the funniest joke in the world. Your biggest mistake was using me as a pawn. Your Miller family, one is more vicious than the next. The days you spent with me can be considered interest. Go and repent for the rest of your sins in prison. I pressed the button on the office intercom. Quentin, bring security in here. Willow struggled desperately. No, please don't, Sincere. I was wrong. I'm begging you. Let me go. I'll do anything you ask. Soon Quentin Shaw came in with the guards, looking at the struggling Willow with a blank expression. Mr. Prescott, have the police come and take her away. Give them the evidence of Willow hiring someone for an attempted murder, along with the evidence of her father's fraudulent accounting and business scams over the years. Yes, Mr. Prescott, Quentin replied calmly, showing no surprise. The security guards forcibly dragged Willow out. No, Sincere, you can't do this to me. Willow let out a desperate scream. I really do love you. I was wrong, Sincere. I'll never do it again. Sincere, the Millers are all venomous snakes. Now that we've shown our true colors, I wouldn't dare keep them around. Let them all rot in there. Let them live their entire lives in regret. Later, whenever I was in a bad mood, I would go visit them in prison. I'd see the sister, then the other sister. Watching them repent one moment and go insane the next, my mood would instantly improve. I have to say, damn, life is good. The end.